Are you
Sure.
doing today what you thought you'd be doing at 16 years old?
Absolutely not.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely not.
I had no idea what I was going to even remotely be doing until I was 22.
I just wanted to ask you, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Oh gosh. To stop trying to be like everybody else.
Mm,
To stop trying to fit into a certain standard and pay more attention to how you're different and how you might think different and pay more attention to your feelings, what gets you excited or what gets you nervous, just to listen more to yourself,
mhm,
rather than you have all the information you need about how you're doing, what might need to change, what
mhm,
you want to explore. And I think for me, when I was 16, I was looking for all the information outside of myself. What
mhm,
did other people think I was good at? Or what did
mhm,
I get a good grade in over here? Maybe I'm good at that. Like trying to understand my particular talents from everybody else when I knew what excited me if I paid attention to it
mhm.
more. But that's really hard when you're 16.
It's hard to do when you're 46 or
Exactly.
65. So
Exactly.
the advice works for all of it.
Yeah.
Tell me, are you doing today what your 20-year-old self thought you would be doing?
I had no idea what I was going to even remotely be doing until I was 22. I always knew I was interested in food and creating different products. My family had a ton of dietary needs growing up, and I would get really creative in the kitchen, and that just sparked my creativity. I loved cooking, but I didn't want to work in a restaurant. I didn't want to go to culinary school right away. I didn't want to work in a hotel hospitality environment. And I'm like, I have no idea. So I explored every interest I had, fashion, product development, food science, everything. And I was like, somewhere it's going to connect. And it wasn't until I interned at BuzzFeed Tasty, which was those first-hand food videos on the internet, that light bulbs went off in my head. And I'm like, food on social media is about to explode. Health food is about to explode. But I had accepted a job working retail in Macy's corporate headquarters doing housewares and kitchen and gourmet food buying because I had no idea what I want to do. And nothing was interesting to me. And then it just takes one thing, but every interest that you have. I mean, I studied retail because I was like, I'm creative. I thought I was going to go into fashion, and now I'm launching a chef jumpsuit line. So it all connects. Long story short, explore all of your interests. They will align somehow.
Thank you for being here, Stella Escobedo. We are going to dive right in. Are you doing today what you thought you would be doing when you were 16 years old?
Absolutely not. Uh, I mean, yes and no. So I've always wanted to. So let me backtrack. My friends always said, "Gosh, Stella, you always ask a lot of questions." So no matter where we went, I always asked questions. It's funny, like even if we were in a taxi because we didn't have Ubers back then, you know what I'm saying? Wherever we were, I was always inquisitive. So my friends thought maybe, you should be an FBI agent. You should be like some kind of investigator. And then, like 2 years down the road, I was like, oh, you know what? No, actually, I was 16. Yeah. Like when I was like, you know what? I think I want to do journalism.
Mm,
And then anyway, as my career progressed and everything, where I am today is not where I would like even 3 years ago, where I thought I would be. So success is, you and I talked about this a little bit. It's never like this. I mean, if it doesn't do this, you're not doing something right.
I usually ask people, are you doing today what you thought your 16-year-old self was doing, would be doing? But because of your experience in your 20s, which I really want to get into, are you doing today what you thought your 21-year-old self would be doing?
Absolutely not.
Okay, tell us
And,
more.
well, actually, it's interesting because I wanted to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a journalism major with a minor in finance. And I really wanted to write. Writing was always something that I really enjoyed a lot. But I also ended up, when I was going to college, I ended up taking some finance classes because I felt like, I don't know if I didn't have the right math classes when I was in high school or what, but I felt like it really challenged me. And I was an athlete growing up, and I was always looking for the next challenge. And whether that was, trying to figure out what was my next race that I was going to run, or I was a gymnast and was constantly trying to find teams that I could be on where people were a little bit better than me.
I have a very important question to ask you, Matt. Are
Sure.
you doing today what you thought you'd be doing at 16 years old?
Absolutely not.
Okay, tell us more.
Absolutely not. So yeah, no, it's 16. I thought if anything, there was very little thought into the future unless it involved sports or girls, right? At 16. To be frank, there wasn't a lot of future thought. Just there just wasn't. So if anything, I would have said some sort of law enforcement. Likely would have been something I'd have thrown out there at 16, but that was more a product of I grew up in a law enforcement household and knew a lot of law enforcement officers and liked law enforcement TV and was always a combat athlete. And so, that's where I thought maybe I'd go. And I did go through the background process with the Secret Service and was offered a job out at the White House, which I ended up turning down and never went the law enforcement route. But so no, ma'am, I had no idea that I'd be doing what I'm doing here.
What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
I think I would say that I think when I was in high school, I was around such a small community of people that I feel like the only way that I could look out and like remind myself that there's many other opinions that think differently and people who are, have experienced what I'm about to experience and how that's going to change a lot of things. I think I would tell myself to know that the community you are around in that moment is not going to be like it's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're not going to be around like the same 100 like so I went to a very small girls school, which was a really important part of my story back when I was in high school, but I don't go to the same small girls school now, so my story's kind of like shifted. But I think that I would remind myself that you're not going to be around that small community for your entire life, and you're going to go to college and you're going to be around people who grew up in different ways in different communities in different states, and grew up with people who have different values than you, and that's going to be really interesting to come to terms with, and hear about and see how they respond to different things that are going on in the world.